couple at the dog park sobbed over my golden retriever, showed me photos, and offered $5,000, saying I'd saved their baby's life. When I refused the money and handed them his leash, the husband smiled and said, "You're a good person. Not many people would do this." I just stood there in the empty park, trying not to cry. That was 10 months ago. Yesterday, I watched him sentenced to 25 years in federal prison. How far would you go for your dog? Last month at the dog park, this couple approached me while I was throwing a tennis ball for my dog Waffle. The woman immediately started sobbing when she saw him. Her husband had his arm around her shoulders and explained through his own tears that I had their dog, their baby, who'd escaped from their backyard, and they'd been searching everywhere since. I'd found Waffle wandering around the parking lot behind my apartment building 6 months ago, no collar, ribs showing through his matted fur, and figured someone had dumped him. The husband pulled out his phone, showing me dozens of photos that definitely looked like Waffle playing in their backyard, swimming in their pool, sleeping on their couch. He said his name was Cooper, and when he called that name, Waffle's ears perked up and he barked, which made my stomach drop because I'd been so sure he was abandoned. The wife was crying into Waffle's fur while he licked her face, and her husband pulled out his wallet and started counting $100 bills. "We'll give you $5,000 for him," he said, his hands shaking as he held out the cash. "I know you've been taking care of him, and we want to reimburse you for everything, food and vet bills and your time, because you saved our baby's life. We thought our lives were over when he got out." I stared at the money, feeling sick because I didn't want their money, and I definitely didn't want to give up Waffle. This dog had been my only friend through the worst breakup of my life, sleeping next to me every night when I couldn't stop crying about my ex, forcing me to go outside when I wanted to rot in bed forever. But watching this woman sob while showing me more photos of their family vacations with him made my chest hurt. These people were destroyed by losing their dog, and here I was keeping him from his real family when I'd just been the person who found him. If they were willing to pay $5,000 just to get him back, he must mean everything to them. I told them to keep their money and just take him, that I was glad he had people who loved him that much. The woman hugged me so tight I couldn't breathe while thanking me over and over. Waffle kept looking back at me as I handed his leash to the husband, probably confused about why I wasn't coming with them. The woman coaxed him toward their car with an excited voice, telling him they were going home. I told myself he'd be happier with his real family, with a yard and another dog to play with like in their photos. The husband shook my hand and said, "You're a good person. Not many people would do this." And I stood there in the empty dog park trying not to cry, but I couldn't stop myself. Waffle was such a good dog, and I'd had no idea when we woke up that was my last day with him. The next 3 weeks were exactly as horrible as I expected. I kept looking for Waffle every time I opened my door, kept saving bacon scraps before remembering he wasn't there to beg for them. I bought a goldfish just to have something alive in my apartment, but it wasn't the same as having someone genuinely excited to see me exist. I started taking different routes home to avoid the dog park and threw out his bed because looking at it made me want to scream. But I told myself at least he was back where he belonged. I kept hoping I'd hear from his family, that maybe they'd send me a picture of him all settled in, but they never did. Then yesterday I was scrolling through Nextdoor looking for a used coffee table when I saw a post that made me drop my phone. Someone had written, "Warning, dog kidnappers active in our neighborhood," with a blurry security camera photo attached. The post explained that criminals were stealing purebred dogs from yards and dog parks, then selling them to puppy mills and collectors overseas for massive profits. They worked in pairs, usually a couple, and used fake sob stories about losing their beloved pet to guilt owners into giving up their dogs. My hands were shaking as I clicked on the photo to enlarge it. Even with the terrible quality, I could see it was them, the same couple from the dog park, leading someone else's German Shepherd into the same car Waffle had climbed into. The post said golden retrievers like mine were especially valuable, particularly